This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and we've done the best gaming laptops. We've done the best Ultrabooks for 2016, early 2017, but something new happened for 2017, and that's the fact that you can finally get a budget gaming laptop. I'm talking about the under $1,000 models that actually are worth buying. It's pretty exciting, and that's thanks to NVIDIA Pascal 10 series graphics. Now, the laptops we're going to talk about, there's 4 of them, and if we haven't already reviewed them, we will be reviewing them. They have GTX 1050 or 1050 Ti graphics cards inside. So modern Pascal Series 10 graphics cards are significantly more powerful than anything that came before, and that means that, you know, it used to be you would get like a 950 or 960M gaming laptop, and it struggled really playing today's modern games, and these can do it. Maybe not like the GTX 1070 and 1080 hotties like the Alienware, or here we have something truly huge, the Razer Blade Pro. That's $3,500 and up. Okay, not in the same category. Not everybody can afford that. Yes, you'll get better performance. Yes, you're going to pay a lot more. So we're not going to focus on expensive here. We've got several to look at. We're going to check them out now. Okay, so first off, the laptops we're going to look at today are all approximately the same size and weight. They hover around 5 pounds, which is 2.4 kilograms, and around an inch thick. Some are just under that, like the Dell Inspiron 7000 series gaming laptop right here, gaming edition. And this is the Acer Aspire VX 15, and it's 1.1 inches, so it's just a little bit thicker, but pretty close, generally speaking. They all use the same size power supply. The physical design language might be slightly different between them, but same size, same weight, same wattage for all of these. So in terms of weight on your back and bulk in your backpack, they're going to be about the same thing. And none of them are actually all that heavy, which is pretty neat for a gaming laptop. Also, another plus, when you go with something that has a GTX 1050 or the 1050 Ti inside, is that's a lower power GPU. So it uses less power, it generates less heat. That means that these don't have the atrocious battery life that a lot of gaming laptops have. All of them should be capable of doing at least 6 hours on a charge when you're using it for productivity use, not when gaming. Of course, it's going to be a lot lower whenever you're gaming. So that's a plus too. And some of them can even go a bit longer, up to 8 hours. So yay, nice stuff there. Also means they're going to be less hot and less loud than their full-bore gaming brethren, like the Alienware 17, for example. It's a big gaming laptop. It does have more room for cooling, but it also has something like a GTX 1070 inside, and it generates a lot more heat. Needs a lot more noise, that sort of thing. So these are fairly peaceful. You'll hear them when you're gaming, for sure, but they're not going to be the vacuum cleaners that fill the room kind of loud. All of them have red backlit keyboards. You don't get RGB multicolor backlighting for this price. Sorry about that. They all have 8 gigs of RAM, and they're all upgradable to 16 gigs of RAM. They have 2 RAM slots. They also have drive bays. They have SSD, M2 slots. You're not looking at PCIe, generally speaking. There's some exceptions. We'll talk about that, but M2 at least, plus a 2.5-inch drive bay. For a lot of people who are doing gaming or are doing even video editing and production on a budget, you need a lot of storage space. So that the hard drive option is actually still a useful thing there. All have 2 fans inside, one for the GPU, one for the CPU, just like bigger gaming laptops do. They all use a conventional design where the fans are separated with heat pipes going towards the center to cover the CPU and the GPU, except for the Lenovo, which puts the 2 fans side by side. That's a riskier way of cooling things. Happily, the 1050 isn't that hot, but when we do a full review of that, we'll talk about how that handles heat. All of these are going to have full HD 1920 by 1080 non-touch displays. And the quality is going to vary, though, from brand to brand, and that's going to be an important point, with some of them having better displays versus the others. For those of you who like it larger, well, most of these are also available in 17-inch versions as well. These all top out at the 1050 or 1050 Ti. With the HP Omen 17, though, you can go up to a more powerful 1060 or 1070 GPU, but only in the 17-inch, not in the 15-inch. And you're blowing the budget there, because that one's $1,800. Now, the GTX 1050 is the low end of NVIDIA's Sirius GPU family. It's fairly capable with most recent games in DirectX 12 mode or Vulkan-supported games. DirectX 11 games, you're looking at low settings. If you're playing Fallout 4 or The Witcher 3, with The Witcher 3, you might even have to drop your resolution below 1920 by 1080. But the newer games, Mass Effect, the Andromeda, in fact, plays really well on medium, with even some high settings thrown in at 1080 resolution. Likewise, Battlefield 1, a well-optimized game, is very playable on medium settings if you have the 1050 or the 1050 Ti. But if you want to cover all games at the highest possible settings, today's AAA titles, well, you know, you're still going to be looking at a more expensive gaming laptop. But this is definitely a foot in the door, and most games are playable. You may have to drop your resolution or your quality settings, but they'll be playable. Now you might get USB-C as you do on the Acer VX15, but no Thunderbolt 3 at this price. You're going to get plastic casings, but you know what? Even more expensive gaming laptops often are clad mostly in plastics. First up is the HP Omen 15. Now when HP changed the Omen from being that styling wedge-shaped metal chassis thing to plastic, we gave them a hard time just because they keep messing with the Omen name. Does it mean an affordable budget gamer like it is now or a classy act? Well, they're going with the budget route. HP almost always ends up selling things at the budget end of stuff, but that doesn't mean it's a bad buy. It starts around $899, and you get the GTX 1050 4GB GDDR5. Subtract $100 if you're willing to go down to 2GB GDDR5, which is doable for a 1080p resolution gaming experience, so you could do that. Again, as with all these, you get a full HD display. It's IPS, it's decent looking. None of these are going to have full sRGB coverage, but they're going to do about 65 to 75% of sRGB, about 50% of Adobe RGB. Even the better looking displays versus the not so good looking displays, usually that's not going to change among them. Same's true here. It's a decent display. It's not like a Wowzer's HP Spectre X360 15-inch yummy display or something like that, though. Core i7-7700HQ. All the laptops we're looking at are Intel Kaby Lake 7th generation with NVIDIA GTX 10 series graphics. Do not buy a 9 series card in a laptop these days. Even if it's going to save you a little bit of money, you're just going to regret it if you're buying this to play games. For pro apps, yeah, it would be okay. But for games, such a big leap that it's going to be worth it to you to buy the current generation. Leap in performance, that is. 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, a terabyte, 7200 RPM hard drive for your HP Omen. Now, if you want to get into having an SSD in there, of course, you can spend some more money and do that. There's a 63 watt-hour 4-cell battery. That's a pretty decent capacity, not mind-bogglingly huge, but it's good enough to get the thing powering through about 6.5 hours of productivity work without really trying hard to manage your power settings and all that sort of thing. So definitely worth a look. Again, it's also available in the 17-inch, and that one goes up to very expensive and very fancy in terms of specs, but not so much the casing. Next up, we have the Dell Inspiron 15 7000 series gaming edition. Like the other laptops, it has the usual creature comforts like an SD card slot, Ethernet, plenty of USB ports, HDMI out, and it comes in a soft touch finish. Now, it's a little out there in red, but they call this Beijing red, but you can also get it in black, and it's a little bit more stately looking. So for those of you who are looking for something that's not too out there looking. Now, if you want to go down to a Core i5, all of these are quad-core 45-watt CPUs. So we're not talking dual-core CPUs like in an Ultrabook. If you go down to the Core i5, you can actually get this starting at $749. Not bad at all. I would lean toward the Core i7 if you can, but honestly, the Core i5 quad-core is a pretty decent performer. And if money is tight, well, I'd save there rather than saving on the GPU. You do get the GTX 1050 Ti with 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory inside, the usual 8 gigs of DDR4 memory, and a 1 terabyte slow 5400 RPM hard drive. It has an 8 gig cache, a flash cache to help things out a little bit. Now you can actually order it if you want to spend more money with an SSD inside as well. The drawback with the Dell Inspiron 15 Gamer 7000 is the full HD display is a TN panel with some of the worst viewing angles I've seen in the last couple of years. You can move up to 4K, but then you're looking at the $1,200 top of the line model, and then you're starting to look at, you know, competing higher end gaming laptops in that price range too from MSI and Asus. So that's the caveat with the Dell. Nice thing about the Dell, 6-cell, 76 watt-hour battery inside, so this thing really does have some staying power, and like all of these, this has Intel HD 630 integrated graphics as well, switchable graphics, so they're all going to run on integrated graphics unless you're running something like Photoshop or something graphically heavy, so the Dell really can make it as far as 7-8 hours of light to moderate, again, non-gaming use. Next up is the Acer Aspire VX15. This one really surprised me. Acer has been doing some good stuff in the last year with gaming laptops. For $799 for a Core i5 laptop, you get a GTX 1050, again, 4 gigabyte GDDR5 VRAM, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and a 1 terabyte 5400 RPM hard drive. Okay, we have that sluggish hard drive again. That's just too bad, but that's pretty darn cheap. If you go for $949, you can get a Core i7 inside. The Acer actually has G-Sync panels, 60 hertz available too, which is a little different from most of these that don't even offer that. The speakers are very loud and full and front firing. The build quality is good. It has gamer looks. You got your red accents on black like so many of these. So subtle, this one is not. But in terms of specs and power that you get for the money and the stability and performance that I experience when gaming, I really like this one a lot. Lastly, the Lenovo Legion Y5 1020 that we'll be reviewing soon. That one starts at $849. Lenovo's back. Several years ago, their Y500 was like the go-to budget gamer. They kind of really established that class. It rocked great specs for the price and decent looks, you know. They're not super fantastic, but for the price, you can only ask for so much. Then they faltered for a few years. The prices went up and the specs were less impressive. The design was all right, you know. Well, now they're hitting it again. They got the spirit. For a good price, you can get a really nice gaming laptop. And one of the good things about them is they're less boy racer looking than a lot of the other laptops. The lid is just pretty much black. So if you don't want to be embarrassed by the looks, if you are embarrassed by the looks of gaming laptops, there's a good pick. Full HD IPS display. It's pretty darn nice looking. Again, you're not going to get super wide color gamut, but the viewing angles are nice on it. The contrast is nice. It's pleasing enough. I have no complaints in this price range. The GTX 1050 Ti with 4 gig of VRAM is standard. That's nice. The Ti is about 15–20% faster at best than the 1050, but it's a nice little jump up there. It's still not going to really go up against the 1060. Core i5-7300 HQ quad core for that price, for $850. If you want to go up to a Core i7, yes, you can do that. About $1180 you can get Core i7 with 16 gigs of RAM rather than 8 gigs of RAM, and you'll get 128 gig PCIe, surprise, boot SSD in addition to a 1 terabyte hard drive. That's a 5400 RPM hard drive. Again, you get the theme here. A lot of these are going to give you the slower hard drive. Lenovo has the smallest battery among these. It's a 3-cell 45 watt-hour battery. That's usually what we see on dual-core Ultrabooks that run on integrated graphics. So we're going to put that through some more testing, again, reviewing that soon. But that would be one little point of concern for me, though the switchable graphics is going to help certainly with battery life there. So there you have it, a happy moment here in my professional career. Never before could I really say gaming laptops on a budget. And I know for some of you, even $850 is a stretch. Sorry about that. But for $850 to $1,000, you can actually get something that is portable, is not bad looking, is well built, and not only that, performs well enough to play today's games. There's nothing worse than I bought a gaming laptop. I can't play Mass Effect Andromeda when it came out. The question is, do you want to play Mass Effect Andromeda now that you've seen what it's like? You know what I mean. But anyway, they're good buys for the money. They're strong enough, robust enough that they should last you through school if you're thinking about buying these through college. And some of them aren't even too embarrassing to look at. That's still a little bit of a stretch. If you're looking for low key, it's going to be that Lenovo Legion Y520. Aggressive name, calm looks. And, you know, red and black is here to stay for now. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this video.